I think that the European heatwave finally reached Belarus. It has been burning like in hell for the past week, and I didn't expect that, especially closer to the end of August and the end of summer, when you still want to enjoy a bit of juices and green colors, but then everything suddenly turns yellowish and you realize that you still have to make August garden tour, and whilst it is burning, I decided to film. Actually, that was the first year when we didn't have cucumbers, because I have no idea what exactly caused such a controversial situation. But in most of the cases, our cucumber plants gave just, empty flowers, even though there were a lot of bees, and in general these plants are supposed to be hybrids, and I have no idea. But nobody eats them, nobody just touches them. I always did hand watering and I took care of them. I even created this really nice net for them to climb on, and they didn't give anything. We had mostly such cucumbers which are really long, and they're more of a salad type cucumbers, but unfortunately we don't have any pickled cucumbers this year, no matter how I love them. I really enjoy pickled cucumbers. As for the tomatoes in the open, it is also such a strange thing, but they are affected by blight so early this year. I don't know the reason why it happened. Like, it doesn't touch the ground, and I always sprayed them with protective substances, but in the open we didn't have a lot of them. They started being affected by blight, though still there are some bunches of tomatoes that are growing, so I left them like that and only removed the damaged ones. I can't say the same about the tomatoes in the Polytunnel, since they are still okay, they are growing, and I hope to have them till October. I've already eaten a good portion of pears. There are still some hanging, but they're so delicious. I mean, like, right now, that's the best period for them. They're so juicy. I just love pears, and I hope that my younger pear will eventually survive. Our garden was flooded. You can check out what was happening with my younger pear. Right now it seems to be okay, though it's not entirely vigorous. The next year will show, and I hope that spot where I planted it won't be flooded the next year. That's the youngest pear I was talking about, though there are some shoots of this year. But I'm worried about one thing. Yeah, so in here, the twig, the branch seems damaged, and I'm not sure what will be with it for the next year. And surprise, surprise, I think that the seller of this fine apple tree wasn't quite fair and honest with me, because I was looking for apples of early crop, but look at that, it seems like these are winter apples, and it's so not fair. But I still keep it. I tried one of the apples before, and it was so sour. And as for the bites from the hair, I still feel like it's not doing okay, and eventually the tree can just dry out because of it, because at the bottom of the tree, in general, the bark is really dark, and some of the wounds of the tree are getting darker. I remember the same situation happened to one of my trees that eventually dried out and was infected by cancer. I'm not sure about that, but I'm sure that I will cut like a couple of twigs for my spring grafting, because I suppose it's a good apple, though I need to try it and eventually reach a decision. I made a pause to chill in the shade, because it seems like I'm really getting tired when I'm out in the sun, and it's literally like when you're pushing yourself to the limit, and the sun is kind of getting all the juices out of your system. Oh, poor plants, I really feel awful for them. This enormous grape turned out to be pink, you know. I thought it's going to be dark blue, but it is pink. But that doesn't matter. I love pink grape as long as it is juicy. Oh, that's fallen. I think that's already ripe. It has a bit of a pinkish side to it. And it proves that this seller was also not very honest with me. I have the type of the grape that I didn't buy. At least that's enormous. As for the second variety of grape, it is a lot smaller than that one. Like when I just show the size, yeah, they are different. And this one also turns out to be kind of white green in a way. Also something that I didn't buy. Let's quickly peek into the Polytunnel. It is burning in there. I wish I had a thermometer so that to measure the temperature inside, but I feel like it's impossible to be there. As for the problem that I showed in July video, I think I figured out what the problem was. I'm still not sure about the quality of the soil, but something that I planted recently inside the Polytunnel is actually feeling okay, and that is the Chinese cabbage. It's not damaged or anything. It's totally fine. After watering it, it actually became so fluffy. And that is the cucumber that I planted into the different soil. It's also feeling fine. So as for that problem there, I suppose it was, and one of the subscribers kindly gave me a clue towards it, and I investigated the quality of the leaves, and it turns out to be a spider mite. And I managed to save one cucumber, again of this long variety. And you know what? It turns out that spider mite, I suppose, it is afraid of tobacco dust, because when I sprayed tobacco dust onto the leaves, I think that the web that was covering the entire leaf just disappeared, and it became greener in that parts where the tobacco dust touches the leaf. And it started shooting, started forming new shoots, and they are a lot better than the previous ones. The same I did with the peppers, because I noticed spider mite on top of some of the peppers. And probably Chinese cabbage managed to survive because initially, before I planted it, and even when it had really small leaves, I puffed it with tobacco dust because I thought that Colorado beetle or anything might damage it, but I never thought of spider mites. So I really thank you for different suggestions and advice on what that might be, because it really helped a lot, and I know how I'm going to deal with it the next year. So I suppose that's because of it. And probably the soil is totally fine. I just need to still spray it with something so that to disinfect it. And I still got some tomatoes in here, mostly cherries, because they seem to be a bunker crop, a bunker plant. There will be a separate video on all of the preservations I made for winter, so if you are interested in that, I will show what I managed to do with such a crazy amount of tomatoes I got this year. heading for my all-time favorite patch, and that is the patch of watermelons and melons. Even during spring, I told you that kind of this year is not really good for watermelons, and it turned out to be so. But it was really good for melons, and I will add a footage that I filmed probably 5 days ago with the melon that I got. As for the watermelons, you will see it for yourself. So that is the result. In most of the cases, the plants are not grafted. There's only one grafted plant, and there is one watermelon that is coming from this one grafted plant. I think, yeah, this watermelon is ripe. It could have grown bigger if not for the fact that I was always kind of trying to wait and to lift it a bit, and I damaged the vine from which it was taking the juices, and that is my fault. But this one is growing, and it's going to be the biggest watermelon this year. I don't know how much it might be, but judging by the size of the melon, it is bigger, so it will be around 3 kg. And the smaller ones, yeah, this one like a medium size comparing to those, and these are of a small size. And I don't think that it will grow bigger because the nights are getting colder. I decided to experiment this year and to see how the plants which are not grafted would produce. But you know what? Still, I really love this idea of grafting watermelons, and I will do that the next year and the year after that. It's just I really need to pick a good time for grafting, because I think that was the wrong time when I was grafting it, and the conditions were not as good as they were the previous year. So if you haven't watched my video on grafting watermelons, you can still go and watch it. That is the video of last year. And right now I'm looking at the Chinese cabbage, and I really have to water it. Poor plants. They are doing really great. That is in the same spot as the garlic horse. Also have dill in here. I made such a revelation last year that when you plant Chinese cabbage closer to autumn, the leaves are cleaner and no one is bothering them. But this year, it's not true, because literally, that's so strange, but the Colorado beetles started eating it. So the season of potatoes is past and they have nothing to eat, so they started eating my beloved Chinese cabbage. But I'm trying to cover it with something to protect from butterflies, sort of butterflies and everything else that can fly, but I can't protect it from Colorado beetle. Look at the pumpkin. It's always the first one to suffer with this painful leaves. Actually, pumpkin this year went bonkers, and It's just one pumpkin and it's growing insanely huge. And recently I noticed a very sneaky pumpkin plant. Yeah, just check it out. I'm not sure about the weight of it, but it is enormous. And how it even happened that it went closer to the door and on the layer of bricks, and it's just laying here as if it owns the place. Yeah, that's insane. I suppose that in here I planted a seedling of a pumpkin that said it would grow a fruit up to 100 kilograms. So I suppose that's the case. And in there I have another pumpkin. Yeah, and I have a compost pile, and it seems to really enjoy this compost pile because of the color of the leaves. I can see that they are deep green, which shows that it doesn't lack any nutrients, and in fact it's just going crazy because of them. The hydrangea is supposed to be pink, so I'm waiting for the flowers to get its tint. I hope that this seller didn't lie to me and it is a pink variety.